Darvish the king issued an order, and search was made in the archives buildings where treasures were stored in Baval. And there was found in Achmata, in the palace which is in the province of Media, a scroll on which it was written the following: Memorandum. In the first year of King Koresh the king issued this decree concerning the house of God in Jerusalem. Let the house be rebuilt, the place where they offer sacrifices, and let its foundations be firmly laid. Its height is to be 90 feet, and its breadth 90 feet, with 3 rows of large stones and 1 row of new timber. The expenses are to be charged to the king's treasury. Also, let the gold and silver articles belonging to the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar removed from the temple of Jerusalem, be brought to Baval, be restored and returned to the temple in Jerusalem, each item to its place, and you are to put them in the house of God. Therefore, Tatnani, governor of the territory beyond the river, Shatar, Bosnia, and your colleagues, the officials beyond the river, stay away from there. Let the work of this house of God alone. Let the governor of the Judeans and the leaders of the Judeans rebuild this house of God on its site. Moreover, I herewith issue this order concerning how you are to assist these leaders of the Judeans in rebuilding the house of God. The expenses of these men are to be defrayed promptly from the royal funds, from the taxes collected beyond the river, so that the work can continue, whatever they need, young bulls, rams, and lambs, for burnt offerings to the God of heaven, wheat, salt, wine, and olive oil, according to what the Kohanim in Jerusalem say. It is to be given to them daily without fail, so that they can offer sacrifices with a fragrant aroma to the God of heaven, and pray for the life of the king and his sons. I also order that if anyone defies this order, a beam is to be pulled from his house, and he is to be lifted up and impaled on it. His house is to be reduced to rubble. May the God who has caused his name to be there overthrow any king or people that tries to defy it and destroy this house of God in Jerusalem. I, Darvish, have issued this order. Let it be carried out to the letter. Then Tatnani, the governor of the territory beyond the Euphrates River, Shatar, Bosnia, and their colleagues obeyed strictly, because Darvish the king had given the order to do so. The leader of the Judeans made good progress with the rebuilding, thanks to the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. They kept building until they were finished, in keeping with the command of God, of the God of Israel, and in accordance with the order of Koresh. Darvish the Atashatiah, king of Persia, this house was finished on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of Darvish the king. The people of Israel, the Kohanim, the Levi'im, and the other people from the exile joyfully dedicated this house of God. At the dedication of this house of God, they offered 100 young bulls, 200 rams, 400 lambs, and as a sin offering for all Israel, 12 male goats corresponding to the number of the tribes of Israel. Then they installed the Kohanim in their divisions and the Levi'im in their order for the service of God in Jerusalem, as it is written in the book of Moshe. The people from the exile kept Pesach on the 14th day of the 1st month, for the Kohanim and the Levi'im had purified themselves together. All of them were pure. So they slaughtered the Pesach lamb for all the people of the exile and for their kinsmen and the Kohanim and for themselves. The people of Israel who had returned from the exile and all those who had renounced the filthy practices of the nations living in the land in order to seek Adonai, the God of Israel, ate the Pesach lamb and joyfully kept the feast of Matzah for 7 days. For Adonai had filled them with joy by turning the heart of the king of Ashur toward them, so that he assisted them in the work of the house of God, the God of Israel. After these things, during the reign of Artachshata, king of Persia, Ezra the son of Syria, the son of Azariah, the son of Helkiah, the son of Shulaman, the son of Zodok, the son of Achtov, the son of Armiah, the son of Azariah, the son of Mariot, the son of Zeracha, the son of Uzi, the son of Buki, the son of Avusha, the son of Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen Haggadah, this Ezra went up from Baval. He was a scribe, expert in the Torah of Moshe, which Adonai, the God of Israel, had given. And the king granted him everything he asked for, since the hand of Adonai, his God, was on him. In the 7th year of Artashshata, king, some of the people of Israel and some of the Kohanim, Leviim, singers, gatekeepers, and temple servants went up to Jerusalem. Ezra arrived in Jerusalem in the 5th month, the 7th year of the king. He began going up to Jerusalem from Baval on the 1st day of the 1st month and arrived there the 1st day of the 5th month, since the good hand of his God was on him. For Ezra had set his heart on studying and practicing the Torah of Adonai and teaching Israel the laws and rulings. Here is the letter from King Artashshata gave Ezra the Kohen and Torah teacher, the student of the matter relating to Adonai's mitzvot and his laws for Israel. From Artashshata, king of Israel, to Ezra the Kohen, scribe of the law of God of heaven, etc. Herewith I decree that everyone in my realm who belongs to the people of Israel, including their Kohanim and Leviim, who, of his own free will, chooses to go with you to Jerusalem, should go. You are being sent by the king and his 7 counselors to inquire how the law of our God, of which you have expert knowledge, is being applied in Yehudah and Jerusalem. You are to also bring with you the silver and gold which the king and his counselors have voluntarily offered to the God of Israel, whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, together with all the gold and silver you receive throughout the province of Baval, and the voluntary offerings of the people of the Kohanim that have been offered willingly for the house of their God in Jerusalem. You are to spend this money carefully on young bulls, rams, and lambs, and their grain offerings and drink offerings, and offer them on the altar of the house of your God in Jerusalem. Whatever seems good to you and your kinsmen to do with the rest of the silver and gold, do it according to the will of your God. The articles given to you for the service of the house of your God, deliver to the God of Jerusalem. Whatever else may be needed for the house of your God that you have to supply, you may supply from the royal treasury. I, Artashshata, the king, herewith order all the treasurers in the territory beyond the Euphrates River to do carefully anything Ezra the Kohen, scribe of the law of God of heaven, requires of you. Up to 3 1/3 tons of silver, 500 bushels of wheat, 500 gallons of wine, 500 gallons of olive oil, an unlimited amount of salt. Whatever is ordered by the God of heaven is to be performed exactly for the house of the God of heaven. For why should wrath come against the realm of the king and his sons? Moreover, we herewith proclaim to you that it is to be illegal to impose tribute, taxes, or tolls on any of the Kohanim, Leviim, singers, gatekeepers, servants, or laborers in this house of God. And you, Ezra, making use of the wisdom you have from your God, are to appoint magistrates and judges to judge all the peoples in the territory beyond the river, that is, all who know the laws of your God, and you are to teach those who don't know them. Whoever refuses to obey the law of your God and the law of the king, let judgment be executed on him swiftly, whether it be death, banishment, confiscation of goods, or imprisonment. Blessed be Adonai, the God of our ancestors, who has put such a thing at this in the heart of the king to restore the beauty of the house of Adonai in Jerusalem, and has extended mercy to me before the king and his counselors, and before all the king's most powerful officials. So I took courage, since the hand of Adonai, my God, was on me, and I gathered together out of Israel key men to go up with me. These are the heads of their fathers' clans, and this is the genealogy of those who went with me from Baval during the reign of Artashshata the king. Of the descendants of the Pinchas, Gershom. Of the descendants of Itamar, Daniel. Of the descendants of David, Hattush. Of the descendants of Shushna, the descendants of Parosh, Zechariah, and with him 150 males officially registered. And the descendants of Pachat Moab, Elihoaniah, the son of Zechariah, and with him 200 males. Of the descendants of Shaktanya, the son of Yechaziel, and with him 300 males. And the descendants of Aden, Evid, the sons of Jonathan, and with him 50 males. And the descendants of Elam, Yeshua, the son of Ataliah, and with him 70 males. And the descendants of Shephatiah, Zediah, the son of Michael, with him 80 males. And the descendants of Joab, Ovidiah, the son of Yechiel, and with him 218 males. Of the descendants of Shlemot, the son of Yosfiah, and with him 160 males. Of the descendants of Beviah, Zechariah, the son of Beviah, and with him 28 males. And the descendants of Azgad, Yochanan, the son of Hakaten, and with him 110 males. And the descendants of Adonikim, the younger ones, whose names were Eliphelet and Yael, and Shemiah, and with him 60 males. And the descendants of Bigviah, Utiah, Zakur, and with him 70 males. I assembled them by the river that runs to Ahava, and were encamped there 3 days. I reviewed the people of the Kohanim, but found no Levi'im there. So I sent for Eleazar, Ariel, Shemiah, Elatan, Yerev, Elnatan, Natan, Zahariah, and Meshulam, who were leaders, and also for Yeriev and Elnatan, who were the men of discernment. I gave them instructions for Edo, the leading man in a place called Kesaphiah, and told them to stay with Edo, his brother, who were in charge of the Kesaphiah, and that they would bring us men to minister in the house of our God. Since the good hand of our God was on us, they brought us Ish Shekel from the descendants of Mechli, and the son of Levi, the son of Israel. Shebriah was with 18 of his sons and kinsmen. Hashviah with Yeshia from the descendants of Miri, 20 of his kinsmen and their sons. And from the temple servants whom David and the princes had assigned to serve the Levi'im, 200 temple servants, all recorded by name. Then there were at Ahava River, I proclaimed a fast, so that we could humble ourselves before our God and ask for a safe journey of him for ourselves, our little ones, and all our possessions. For I would have been ashamed to ask the king for a detachment of soldiers and horsemen to protect us from enemies along the road, since we have said to the king, the hand of our God is on all those who seek him for good, but for his fury is against all who abandon him. So we fasted and asked our God for this, and he answered our prayer. And I separated 12 of the chief Kohanim, along with Shebriah, Hashviah, and 10 of their kinsmen. I weighed out to them the silver, the gold, and utensils for the house of our God, contributed by the king, his counselors, his princes, and all the Israel present there. I weighed out and handed over to them 21.5 tons of silver, 3 1/3 tons of silver articles, 3 1/3 tons of gold, 20 gold bowls weighing 21 pounds, and 2 vessels of fine burnished bronze, as precious as gold. Then I told them, you are consecrated to Adonai. The articles are holy, and the silver and the gold are a voluntary offering for Adonai, the God of your ancestors. Guard them carefully until you weigh them before the chief Kohanim and Levi'im and the leaders of the fathers of the clans of Jerusalem in the rooms of the house of Adonai. So the Kohanim and the Levi'im received the consignment of silver and gold and the articles to bring Jerusalem to the house of our God. On the 12th day of the first month, we left the Ahava River to go to Jerusalem. The hand of our God was on us, and he protected us from the enemies and surprise attacks along the road. In time, we arrived in Jerusalem, where we rested for 3 days. On the 4th day, the silver and the gold articles are weighed in the house of our God and handed over to Mermot, the son of Uriah, the Kohen. With him, Eleazar, the son of Pinchas, and with him were Jozabad, the son of Yeshua, and Nodiah, the son of Benui, who were the Levi'im. The entire consignment was numbered and weighed, and at the same time, the total weight was recorded. The exiles who had returned from captivity offered burnt offerings to the God of Israel, 12 young bulls for all Israel, 96 rams, 77 lambs, and 12 male goats as a sin offering. All this was a burnt offering for Adonai. They also delivered the king's orders to the king's viceroys and governors beyond the Euphrates River, and these gave their support to the people and to the house of God. After these things had been done, the leaders approached me and said, The peoples of Israel, the Kohen and the Levi'im, have not separated themselves from the peoples of their lands in their disgusting practices. The Canaani, Hitti, Perizi, Uvisi, Ammoni, Moavi, Egyptians, and Emori, they have taken some of the women from the nations as wives for themselves and their sons, so that the holy seed has assimilated with the people of the lands. Moreover, the officials and leaders have been the main offenders in this treachery. When I heard of this, I tore my robe and tunic, pulled hair from my head and beard, and sat down in shock. All who trembled at the word of the God of Israel assembled around me when confronted with this treachery of these exiles, and I sat there in shock until the evening offering. At the evening offering, with my cloak and tunic torn, I got up from my afflicting myself, fell on my knees, spread out my hands to Adonai my God, and said, "My God, I am ashamed. I blush to lift my face to you, my God. For our sins tower over our heads, our guilt reaches up to heaven. Since the times of our ancestors, we have been deeply guilty. And because of our sins, we, our kings and our Kohanim, have been handed over to the kings of our lands, to the sword, to exile, to pillage, and to disgrace, as it is the case today. Now, for a brief moment, Adonai, our God, has shown us favor of allowing a remnant to escape and giving us a secure foothold in this holy place, in order for God to make things look brighter to us and revive us a little in our slavery. For we are slaves. Yet our God has not abandoned us in our slavery. He has caused the kings of Persia to extend grace to us, reviving us so that we can rebuild the house of our God, repair its ruins, and have a wall of defense in Yehuda and Jerusalem. But now, our God, what are we to say of this? For we have abandoned your mitzvot, which you gave us through your servant the prophets, when they said, the land which you are going in order to take possession of, the land defiled by uncleanliness of the peoples of the lands because of their disgusting practices, which have filled it with their filth from one end to the other. Therefore, you are not to give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, or you are not to promote their peace or prosperity ever. Only in this way you will grow strong. Enjoy the good things of the land and leave it as a lasting inheritance to your children. Now, after all this has come upon us because of our evil deeds and our deep guilt, and even so, you, our God, have punished us less than our sins deserve, and have given us a surviving remnant. Are we to break your mitzvot again by making marriages with the peoples who have these disgusting practices? Won't you become so angry with us that you would destroy us completely, so that there would be no surviving remnant and no one who escapes? Adonai, God of Israel, you are just. Yet we have been left a surviving remnant that has escaped. As it is today, as it is the case today. Look, we are before you in our guilt. Because of it, no one can stand in your presence. While Ezra was praying and making confession, weeping and prostrated himself in the house of God, a huge crowd of Israel's men, women, children gathered around him, and the people were weeping bitterly. Shecaniah, the son of Yekael, one of the descendants of Elam, spoke up and said to Ezra, "We have acted treacherously toward our God by marrying foreign women from the peoples of the land. But in spite of this, there is still hope for Israel. We should make a covenant with our God to send away all those wives, along with their children, in obedience to the advice of Adonai and all those who tremble at the mitzvot of our God. Let us act accordingly with the Torah. Stand up and do your duty, for we are with you. Take courage and do it." Ezra stood up, and he made the chief Kohanim, the Levi'im, and all Israel swear that they would act accordingly to what they had been said. And they took the oath. Ezra then left his place in front of the house of God and went to the room of Yochanan, the son of Eliashiv. After going there, he neither ate food nor drank water because he was mourning over the treachery of the exiles. A proclamation was issued throughout Yehuda and Jerusalem that all the exiles were to assemble in Jerusalem, and that whoever didn't come within 3 days in answer to the summons from the officials and leaders would forfeit all he owned and himself be banished from the community of the exiles. All the men of Yehuda and Benjamin assembled in Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 20th day of the 9th month. All the people sat in one place, in the open place, in front of the house of God, trembling because of this matter and because of the heavy rain. Ezra the Kohanim stood up and addressed them. You have acted treacherously by marrying foreign women and have thus increased Israel's guilt. Now therefore make confessions to Adonai, the God of your ancestors, and do what will please him by separating yourselves from the peoples of the land and from the foreign women. In response, the whole assembly cried aloud, Yes, our duty is to do as you have said. But there are many people, and it is a rainy season. We can't stay out here in the open. Also, it isn't the work of a day or two, for there are many of us who have committed this crime. Let our leaders represent the whole community, and let all those of our cities who have married foreign women appear at prearranged times, accompanied by the elders and judges of each city, until our God's fierce anger over this has been turned away from us. Only Jonathan, the son of Ashiel, and Yachziah, the son of Techvah, supported by Meshullam and Shepti the Levi, opposed this. The exiles did as agreed. Ezra the Kohen chose heads of the fathers' clans by name, and they began their session to look into the matter on the first day of the 10th month. They finished dealing with all the men who had married foreign women by the first day of the first month. Among the Kohanim were found these who had married foreign women. Of the sons of Yeshua, the son of Yotzadak, and the brothers, Masiah, Eliezer, Yariv, Gledaiah, they promised they would send their wives away, and since they were guilty, they offered a ram for the flock of their guilt. Of the sons of Imar, Hanani, Zudiah, and the sons of Hiram, Masiah, Eliah, Shmaiah, Yechiel, Uzziah, and the sons of Pashkur, Elianah, Messiah, Yishmael, Natan, Yozibiad, and Yesiah. Of the Levaim, Yozvad, Shimi, Cleia, also known as Cleta, Pitya, Yehuda, and Eleazar. Of the singers, Elvish, and of the gatekeepers, Shalom, Telem, and Uri. Of Israel, the descendants of Purosh, Yamya, Yeziah, Milkiah, Mayim, Elazar, Melchiah, and Binyah. Of the descendants of Elam, Matniah, Zechariah, Yechiel, Avdi, Yermot, Eliah. Of the descendants of Zatu, Eliadne, Eliashiv, Mattaniah, Yermot, Zavad, and Aziza. Of the descendants of Biva, Yochanan, Hananiah, Zabi, and Alta. Of the descendants of Bani, Meshullam, Meluch, Eldyah, Yeshuv, Shaul, and Ramot. Of the descendants of Pakat Moab, Adna, Kla, Binya, Messiah, Matanya, Betael, Benu, and Manasseh. Of the descendants of Haram, Elazar, Yeshia, Milkiah, Shumya, Shimon, Benjamin, Miluch, Shimeiah, and the descendants of Hushum, Metna, Metata, Zavad, Eliphet, Yirmiah, Menashiah, and Shimi. Of the descendants of Bani, Ma'adah, Aram, Uel, Binya, Bidya, Kilunhu, Venya, Matrot, Elishiv, Metnya, Metna, Yesiah, Bani, Benu,